Hello, welcome back to Math 7 with Mr. Passon. Today we are covering Unit 7, Lesson 4. We're talking about the area of triangles and trapezoids. So first thing we want to look at, when two triangles are formed when what shape is this? So first thing I want to know is what is the shape. So pause for a moment, think about this shape, and tell me the name, or either say it out loud, or if the question pops up, answer the question. What is this shape? Hopefully you got it right. It was parallelogram. Alright, and if we cut this parallelogram in half, I'm going to draw a little triangle, or draw the shape here. We made two triangles, right? Okay, now, so you're going to try to figure out what this word is. If this whole space is the area for a parallelogram, and that is base times height, what is the area for a triangle? What is the area for a triangle? The area of a triangle is 1/2 the area of the trapezoid, which we remember is base times height. Okay? Now the height of the remember the height had to be in what relationship? What is the relationship that the height had to be compared to the base? It will form a right angle with the base of the triangle. Okay? Now, let's go ahead and take a look at this. So remember, first thing we want to ask is what is our formula for the area of a triangle? I'm going to ask you this a whole bunch. I'm going to give you a whole bunch of formulas in there. Hopefully you'll remember each one and you'll pick the right one. That's right. Our formula is area equals 1/2 times the base times the height. We put in our values, so we've got 1/2 times the base, which is 14, times the height, which is 16. Go ahead and do that calculation, and I'm going to ask you what that area is. Okay, the area is 112 inches squared. Alright, and remember, control period will give you that exponent. So we're going to do it again over here. Remember, what is our formula for the area of a triangle? Okay, our area equals 1/2 times base times height. Now, there's another way to write that. We could write base times height divided by 2. Multiplying by 1/2 is the same as dividing by 2. We put in our numbers, so our area equals 3.5 times 2 divided by 2, which is just going to be, remember 2 divided by 2 is just 1, so our area is 3.5. Now, 3.5 what? What are the units of our answer? Well, all areas are in square units, so ours is meters squared. Meters squared. Okay? Now we're going to talk about a similar one for trapezoids. So you'll notice that we can take two trapezoids, and we can cut a parallelogram and make two trapezoids as well as making two triangles. Okay? Now a trapezoid is one or two triangles and a rectangle combined. Okay, now the formula is kind of a weird one. It's A equals 1/2. Then it's our two bases, so we've got base 1 plus base 2. Now, instead of superscripts, we're going to use subscripts here. Okay, and that is control comma. So if you do control comma, you're going to type 2 times the height. Now we're going to see exactly where this comes from in just a second, okay? So if we take any trapezoid and we go ahead and draw a line across it, well, notice we have one triangle up here that has base 1, and one triangle down here that has base 2. So it's the area of this triangle plus the area of this triangle. Now, doing a little bit of sort of paying attention, we can realize that we can just add those bases together. So it's the area of this triangle plus the area of this triangle. Alright, so that is how we get our formula. Oh, and it would help if I went to the right one. So, B1 is the base at the bottom. So the length of the first base. B2 is the length of the second base. And H is the height of the trapezoids. Now, since our two bases are always the parts that are are always the two sides that are parallel to each other, the height is always the same. So in this case, the height would be the distance from here. So remember that our height is perpendicular to our base. So let me grab a little line object here. And we can think of our height is from here to here. And I'm just going to double click on it and then call this the height H. So that way it shows up right. And man, I gotta fix my web page. But the height for this one, well, remember, it's got to be perpendicular to our base. So I don't know if you've seen this before, where the height is actually not listed inside the triangle. But this one is also our height. And we see that our height is the same for both of them. Now I'm going to hide the axes here so we can see all the other stuff. Alright, so our height is the same for both triangles. Here's our first base. Well, actually, probably here's our first base, and here is our second base. So we have the area of this triangle down here, and the area of this triangle up here. Alright? Good. So, you don't really need to know that how we get the formula if you memorize the formula, but you could think about it. Well, a half times the base times the height, that's one triangle, and a half times the base times the height, that's the other triangle. But if we add the bases together, we can just do that one calculation. So this sort of puts those two together. Alright, now use the formula to determine the area of the shape below. So first thing we need to ask ourselves, what is the formula for the area of a trapezoid? And we have it right up there. So we have our area equals 1/2 times B1. Control comma gives me my subscript. Plus B2 times H. So we add our two bases. So we're going to do 1/2 times 7 plus 12. Now remember that the two bases are always the two parallel sides. And then we're going to multiply by the height, which is 4. You'll notice we didn't actually use this 5 at all because it's not important for our area. So we go ahead and do those calculations. We get 7 plus 12 is 19. And I'm going to do the half times of 4 first because it's all multiplication at that point. And we can switch the order. So a half times 4 is 2. 2 times 19 is 38. So it's 38, and the last thing we need to know is what are our units. So the units for this one are inches squared, okay, or square inches. That's what we're going for. So we've got two new formulas that we learned today. The area of a triangle is 1/2 base times height. The area of a parallelogram is 1/2 times the sum of the bases times the height. And here the bases are always the sides that are parallel. Okay? So let's go ahead and go on to page 2. Now, let's take a look at this task. We're going to try to break it up into small pieces, but we're going to figure out what's going on. At a summer camp, Josie participates in an arts and crafts class. She must cut scrapbook paper into specific shapes and sizes in order to create a project. Use a ruler to measure the dimensions of each figure, then choose an appropriate formula to solve for the area of the figure. The flag will be created, the flag banner will be created out of scrapbook paper. Measure the figure to the nearest half inch. How many square inches of paper will be used to create the banner with the 8 flags? Alright, so we could measure this side, or this side. Let's go ahead and label those, and I'm going to ask you a couple questions. So if I label this side A, and then I'm just going to copy this and put a little B over here. A little C over here. And then I'm going to draw one more thing. I'm going to draw my line from here to here. And call this H. What are the 2 units that I'm going to use to calculate the area here? What are my 2 units? Or what are my 2 measurements? Am I going to use A and B, A and C, A and H, B and A, B and H, B and C? Which 2 letters am I going to use? Well, remember that the 2 measurements that we have to have are perpendicular to each other. So we're going to use A and H. So remember, our formula is area equals 1/2 times base times height. But in this case, our base is this length here, and our height is this length here. Now, we're not going to worry about measuring the rest of this. I am just going to tell you the measurement on this side is 2.5. So this A equals 2.5, and this H here equals 4 inches. Okay? So go ahead and substitute in what your formula should be. I'm going to follow up with another quick question there. So what should your equation now be? Okay, so our area equals 1/2 times 2.5, not 4.5, 2.5. That is still not a 2. 2.5 times 4. Now, since all the numbers are multiplied together, it is easy for me to put in a different order, but I'm going to say that my final answer is A equals 5, but 5 what? Go ahead and add in the units, and let me know what those units are. Okay, our units are inches squared, and again, that's control period to get that as an exponent. Alright, now, that's wrong though. So we needed 8 figures. So our area for 1 figure is this. So our area for 8 figures is 8 times 5, which equals 40 square inches. Okay? So our area for 1 is 1/2 base times height, and that's our calculation there. And then our last step, it says we have 8 flags, so we have to multiply by 8. Okay? Make sure to go back and read the problem. Otherwise, you might get caught in a trap where you answer the wrong question. Alright? Now, let's go ahead and look. Each page of scrapbook has 144 square inches. In arts and crafts class, there will be 13 students. How many pages of scrapbook does how many pages of scrapbook paper does the camp need? That is a rough question. That's kind of a sneaky question because let's assume that we can use all the paper on each page to sort of fill up these flags. So we've got, let's figure out how much we need. Well, we've got 13 students, times 40 per each student, and then we're going to have to divide by 144 square inches to get the number of pages. Alright, so let's go ahead and check that out and see what that is going to be. So we've got 13 times 40 divided by 144. Well, that comes out to be about 3.6. So we're going to need 4, and it's 3.6, 1 repeating. Alright, but so that's about, but we can't really have part of a page. So our answer is that we're going to need 4 pages. Now that's sort of a weird question because it assumes that we can use all the paper on a page, and I'm not sure we can do that easily. It depends on the shape of the paper. So this is sort of a tricky question that I am not sure I agree with, but there was our first estimate. We would need a minimum of 4 pages. Okay, now, smaller tiles are used to create mosaic art pieces. How many square inches does each small tile cover? So we want to know, what is the area of this shape? Now I'm going to give you some dimensions here, okay? And then I'm going to ask you, first of all, what is the formula we're going to use? In fact, I'm going to ask that first. What is the formula for the area of a trapezoid? Oh, so our area formula, area equals 1/2 base 1, and again it's control, actually comma this time to make a subscript, plus base 2 and control comma to get it back out of that, times the height. Okay, now remember our bases are the parts that are parallel. In this case, when I did the measurement, and I'm just going to go ahead and throw a text box in here and put all that information in here, this base up here was 1 1/2. Okay, this one down here was 3 inches, and the height here was 2 inches. Alright, so now use those and put them in the formula. Okay, these two are our bases, so we get, go ahead and try to fill it in. Alright, now I get, I'm going to go ahead and convert it to a decimal. So I've got 1/2, well I'm going to convert the inside part to a decimal. So I've got 3 plus 1.5, close parentheses, times 2. That's not a 2, times 2. Now the multiplying by 1/2 and by 2 are actually going to cancel each other out, because that's just 1. So really my answer is just 4.5, and then it's inches squared. Oh. Okay. So, first of all, summarize today's lessons. What are the 2 formulas we learned today? How do we know that they work? Maybe, if that helps you remember them. But the important thing is that you remember how to calculate our areas for both triangles and trapezoids. Thank you for participating today, and I hope this works out well.